Hello, I'm here to talk about basically how effective I found the unit planning during the Module 5, Unit 4, Activity 3. Um, I have to say that my initial planning for this was not very effective because I honestly didn't understand the fine line between observations and standards. Not teaching a class or ever going through any of this paperwork or doing any of this thing made it quite difficult for me. So I was pretty much 2 steps behind everyone else in implementing a plan. I think one of my biggest problems was not understanding basically the mindset of a 4th grader. Elementary I understand, middle school I understand. Elementary being, kindergarten and 1st grade, 2nd grade, but that 3rd, 4th grade, it's sort of a kind of a gray area for me. I haven't had much experience with the work and what the teachers do in those courses. And I think what I did was I added too much into my lesson plan, trying to cover way too many bases and not really, I guess, understanding what an objective was and how an objective is what I'm hoping to teach the class, correct? And a standard is the standards of which I want them to master the skills that I'm giving them. So that's where I think I pretty messed up bad. I think I had my objectives down as, like you had said, a fun activity instead of it being what it's supposed to be. That was one of the reasons why the revisions I did was because my grade was so low. And I needed to understand what I was doing. I think originally I had revised it as a geography just because it was more cut and dry, and I think I could understand objectives and standards in that sense because geography, there are no real big variables. It's either right or wrong. A mile is a mile. A type of measurement is specific. A landmass is specific. Whereas in literature, there are so many variables and ways you can go with it that it's actually a little bit harder, I think, to create a lesson plan around it. Unless, of course, you're teaching grammar or vocab, which is what I tried to base most of this lesson plan on after I did my revisions. You asked, what insights did you gain from lesson planning process and teaching lesson? That it's not easy, that you really, really need to be consistent and focus and think about who you're teaching and that not one size fits all. I think you had mentioned that you can't have a lesson plan that fits everybody, and that's where the differentiated instruction comes in. I was led to believe that teaching was much more instinctual, much less graphing and planning. I understand that I'm going to have to step into a classroom and really focus my part on teaching. I hope to gain better insight by doing this as an actual classroom where I can work on it and see where my ideas work or fail, I guess, with a class. Hopefully that'll be with my internship and not in an actual class. I think I also need to deal with time management, spacing out my assignments properly. In the video, I did notice that at first I had a good grasp on what I was teaching, but then I let the classroom kind of go, and the kids took over a little bit with the talking and surmising and injecting comments and things, and that would be something I need to really work on, is being able to manage class time and being able to guide the children from one set assignment to the next in a flow. And one of the things that I did get critiqued by Angel was that possibly using a set a timer, and using that as a way to train myself to understand time management skills in classroom teaching. Time and objectives, like I said, was the part of the unit plan that emerges a critical implementation. Sorry, it's the end of the day here. And the differentiated instruction, I'm still not really comfortable with that. Because as I've said, I've never had to really deal with teaching children with behavioral problems or teaching children that are, physically impaired, blind, or ADHD. I'm ADHD, but that doesn't help. In fact, that makes it even harder for me. How did planning process help you determine how you would know whether students were meeting the objectives? The way I knew was just by the enthusiasm of my students, the fact they were answering back correctly. They seemed very involved in what we were doing. They seemed happy in doing it, enthusiastic, and were willing to answer. So that to me was one of the ways I based that they were getting what I was teaching them. Let me see. I think as I become more comfortable with teaching in class, I put this, I hope to be able to predict student understanding, especially with learning disabilities and cultural differences, which may hide the success of a student. One of my biggest concerns, this might go back to critical implementation, is that I think students of a cultural background that's different, Hispanic students, even Black students, African American, a lot of times they'll hide their cultural differences with silence or pretending to understand when they really don't, out of fear of being wrong. And what I would really like to do is to be able to, I guess, understand where they're coming from and culturally where they're coming from, and be able to implement a plan or a strategy that would help them, I guess, feel more comfortable in the classroom and be able to voice their opinions, or at least take a more active interest in participating than they would if I didn't. Because I think when students are engaged and happy, they're more willing to put forth knowledge or what they know, or being able to share with other students and me as a teacher. And I think that's really important with kids, especially elementary kids. I mean, I know we go by course, Common Core, and these learning curves and this grading and point system. But I really think in elementary school, I really think that basing so much of our study time or teaching a child at that age to meet these point systems is really, really detrimental to their growth. I think we squelch their creative outlook, and I think we squelch their enthusiasm to learn when we do that, because I don't think have the mentality or the comprehension, I guess, or the maturity to understand what it is we're looking for. So maybe that's something I can look into as well. I really liked this unit of study, even though I complained a lot and had a really hard time with it. I learned so much about what I need to do and to be able to implement a successful class of instruction. I know I need a lot more learning and understanding the rubrics and more on objectives and the differentiated instruction, especially in this age group. And I just hope to do well later on. And that's about it. Thank you. All right.